Hello and welcome to a buildingSMART webinar. This webinar is part of the buildingSMART Virtual Summit for Spring 2022. Thank you for joining. My name is Sheila Karai-Lum and I will be your moderator today. Today's webinar is titled Applying IFC 4.3 for Rail Project Kickoff. Our speakers today are Winfried Stix, Launer, Pagnier, Zhang and Christian Erisman. This webinar is scheduled to last for 1 hour with a short Q&A at the end. The webinar is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event within 24 hours. Before I hand over to our speakers, I would like to remind you that your microphones will remain muted for the duration of this webinar. If you have any questions or wish to make comments, please use the session-specific chat box in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. I would also like to bring your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favour any particular provider and are open, non-binding and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct, which is up on the screen now. And on that note, I would like to hand over to Winfried.
Again, a warm welcome from me, now with sound, to our project kickoff of the Next Steps project from the Railway Room, applying IFC 4.3 for rail. Okay, now I have to go further here. We have these 4 points on our agenda for today, for today's session here. At first, we want to wrap up the current situation where we are today. Then we want to describe the expectation topics from stakeholders for the near future. The third point is about the project setup. And then we can go for the concrete next steps in the project. So then let's go in medias res, and we have the current situation. So let's start with the wrap up here, and I'd like to hand over to Zhang. Please, thank you.
Right, thank you, Winfried. So before we talk about where we are and how we should go forward, let's just go back a little bit to see how all this work was started at the very beginning. So back in 2000 and early 2018, so 4 years ago, looking at the life cycle of the railway, so our stakeholders were looking for an organization to make a standard to cover the process or cover at least many aspects of the process from design to maintenance. And this is in order to achieve this digital twin vision. And this is how this IFC Rail project was started in buildingSMART. Okay, next. So in the last 4 years, we have been following the buildingSMART process. So in the first 2 years, we collect the requirements, we make the candidate standard, and then deliver to a buildingSMART standard committee. And then in the last 2 years, following the buildingSMART process, we cooperate with software vendors to test, implement, and validate this standard. And now this standard is finished as IFC 4.3, and it is also now submitted to ISO and go into the ISO process, and it will become an ISO standard later. Okay. So looking at what we have done. So in the first 2 years in the IFC Rail project phase 1, we have these 6 deliverables delivered. So basically, it is about collecting requirements and try to embed these requirements into IFC 4.3 in order to make this, in this slide, we call it harmonized IFC standard. So it was a candidate standard delivered to buildingSMART. Next. And then in the phase 2, we made a lot of deliverables, as you see from this diagram. So I guess this picture is, might be too small for you to read. So basically, on high level, let's say we try to we get this candidate standard, then we collaborate with software vendors, we do unit tests, we do storyline tests, and then based on this testing activity, we update the IFC 4.3 specification jointly with InfoRoom, because InfoRoom has a parallel project, as you probably know. And we also make the property sets, add more property sets into IFC, and also we may, together with InfoRoom again, to make this alignment-based reference view, which is MED. And yesterday there was an expert panel meeting that was a lot of details about this MED was presented. So this is what we have done and where we are now. Okay. So after these 4 years, after all this work have been done, so which means we already finished this standard, we also collaborated with software vendors to test implementing this standard. Now we really want to make to let end users be able to have a software to really use this software to make IFC-based railway model and let this model to be used in their real projects. So this is let's say where we are and how we should start it, and the original idea how we should start it next. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chi, for your explanations and for your wrap-up of the current situation. So let's go through the expectations of our stakeholders, what needs to be done from their point of view, for the near future. So as you see, we have this is an overview. We have worked on it in a series of workshops with our stakeholders, and I can tell you we have a very fat backlog and a very big wish list here. And this is an overview about the main topics. One topic is, of course, to accompany the ISO timeline, so that we follow the timeline until early 2023, February 2023, when the ISO standard should be delivered. So if there are upcoming questions, upcoming uncertainties, whatever, we should stand here and give answers from the rail side. Then the stakeholders pointed out that the contribution to defining general processes at BSI, to approve processes at BSI, would be also a very important thing. So we get this point here. Then the common platform between stakeholders, technical service members, and software vendors should be continued from phase 2. Because it's really important to have the software vendors as close as possible to the requirements of the stakeholders. Then we have the topic use case validation. So processes and tooling should be developed here, or should be planned here. The validation rules for checking IFC files is one of the main things, also for tendering and so on in the real life of an infrastructure manager. Then, of course, G mentioned it. The implementation is a main point. We think that we can go through use cases, a minimum of 2 use cases, which are prioritized by the stakeholders, so we can go through them to have a clear view on software, on the software implementation part here. And then communication is also a very important part to make the whole market aware what we as a community of railway stakeholders are intent to do. Yeah, so then let's go to the project setup so far. What do we tackle next? out of these expectations, we made a package to start the project in with this general tool goals. The first goal is support establishing use case driven implementation and validation processes. So this is the kind of the process work. And we want to conduct, as mentioned before, prioritized use cases through these processes with minimum 3 software vendors involved. So this is the kind of content work in this project. This should bring the rail requirements to the BSI processes, and of course reuse these processes not only for these two prioritized use cases, but also for other and further use cases, like a guide or a template for using that, so that it's much more easier to implement use cases in future. And this should lead us from the storyline test scenario, which we have in the phase 2, to a functional rail software. Yes, and we have designed this organization. This is, as you see, it's more or less similar to the former phases. Because of the success, we don't touch running systems. I think it's a good idea to have here some continuity. The only what is changing is the embedding into the railway room organization. There is a session in 1 hour after this meeting where we describe the room, the new room governance. And here we have, as usual, the project steering committee, which is open to active contributors to the project. We have the PMO contracted below it and the technical experts, and of course the contribution of the stakeholders, and of course of the software vendors are shown here. And the project itself, it is. Let's say there are 3 working groups, letting the project management aside for a moment. There are 3 working groups. The first working group is about the processes, where we can contribute to the general processes of buildingSMART International, but also heading forward to templates, tooling, processes we need in the project surrounding. The second working group is the requirements working group, which covers the use case management, so the refinement, requirements definition, the refinement of the definitions, and the prioritization. Here is the main point of the stakeholders' contribution. And the third working group is the implementation working group. It's about the implementers collaboration. So here we will set up and go through the implementation of the use cases into concrete software. Yeah. So this is the organization, and this is the draft project plan. And for that, I will hand over to Dieter. Dieter.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this forum. Yeah, so just to remind you, this process about thinking about what comes next and how do we actually implement and get the work to life we've done over the last 4 years. This process started quite a year ago, and we had numerous discussions amongst the stakeholders, and this is and the stakeholders came up and said we need to get this to life, and therefore we sat together discussing where are the priorities. It was soon very clear that we can't tackle all, and this process lasted, as I said, for a year, and it got finalized very shortly, basically about 2 weeks ago. And the result of this, that we have a very, very good task plan, and thank everybody who contributed to that. So we know exactly what should be done, what can be done. Problem here is that as always with these developments, the tasks got more and more, and we see a quite enhanced project plan to our first first consideration. And we now are in the process, and this process will take us another week roughly, to finalize the resource plan. So we know exactly what we do, what we want to do. We know quite exactly how we want to do it. Winfried described the 3 work groups we want to tackle those questions. And over here, there's a first overview about a more detailed view on the 2 basic goals, processes and content, broken down into 6 tasks. We will call them work packages in the future, and we have a first estimation about the duration. So to remind you, the project is set up for a year, so it should end March 31st next year. And under these constraints, we have set up the distribution over time for the various work groups here. Keep in mind, this is a first draft, so all is not carved in stone. And as always, if you want to do something, structure helps. Winfried, next page, please.
Yep.
So we have here set up the meeting structure in the first place. So we will continue our internal PMO meetings planning, call it planning for the week and the next week, which we do every Monday internally within PMO. We have steering committee meetings. We have developed a very good habit and usage of steering committee meetings over the last 4 years. Every second Tuesday a month. So we want to continue this schedule because everybody's used to it. We will meet, of course, in the work groups, and we will set up the meetings there as needed. We also continue the implementers forum, and we are currently considering to do this once a week or every 2 weeks. And of course, the communication is on as a needed or as a appropriate basis. Yeah, to say a word about the active contributors, we are very grateful and happy that basically most of the consortium members of the current phases or the last 2 phases continued to work on. So this is namely Swiss Railway, that's the Chinese Railway, the Italian Railway Organization, the French Railway Organization, and the French National Project for collaboration in the construction area. This is the Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency and the Swedish Railway Organization. These members have currently committed a budget of 785,000 euros, including in that budget is also a transfer from the first phase, from the first 4 years. Yeah, but as I said, we looked at the work we do. We do an estimation in the support needed from external parties, and we are afraid currently that we need a bit more. Keep in mind that the current budget is about 25% less on an annual basis what we had available so far. And so we are not only for budget reasons, but only to bring in new ideas, new blood. We are open for additional consortium members. So if you are excited now about what we do, come on and join the party. It's a great place to contribute, to work. And as you can see here, we are always trying to push the bar towards a successful project as we used to.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dieter. Then what are the next concrete steps we want to go, and how can we take off? And it's always a good stuff for taking off. Dieter has described the general overview. So what we need to refine is now the project plan, of course, in terms of resources and requirements, of course, and time, but mainly of resources. So this will be the let's say the red line through the project, to have all the resources we need at the right time on the right place. So we try to finish that next week. So Friday 8th should be the day where we know exactly where we can go through the resource plan. It's a really tough plan. So let's see what happened there. Nevertheless, we have on Tuesday the 12th planned the constituent steering committee meeting of the project. So there should be a confirming for the project plan, and of course the confirming on in-kind resources and resources in general for the project. To start the working groups kickoff meetings, we think that it will be possible to start in mid of April. So far, Dieter, is there something I missed?
No, I think a perfect overview about
everything's fine. Okay, so then this was the setup of the project, and at least let me say a call for stakeholders action. So please join the first steering committee meeting to make a clear sign and a clear setup of the project possible. Of course, we have again the request to our stakeholders for in-kind resources. It's always the question who, what skills, how long, and so on. We try our best to refine this plan until our first steering committee meeting. From the skills, it will be the same as the last 4 years. The test leaders and domain experts are, I think, the important guys to refine use cases and to check what happens in the implementation phase. What we also need is a kind of ambassador. I think I have not talked about. Maybe I jump back. I think we have time enough. Maybe I jump back to the slide of the organization and come back to this thing again. As you see here, the violet things here, we have a very strong relationship to the buildingSMART organizations, to the buildingSMART offices, in terms of the technical office, the technical department, and so on. And what we need is a very tight collaboration between the projects, this project in special, and the developments, the general overall developments in buildingSMART, so that we can go very efficient through the project. And for that point, we want to have a kind of ambassador which coordinates the project, go through the project's performance and results with the buildingSMART technical department mainly, I think. So that's a really important point here. And that's why we called it it's a working title, so ambassador from the project to BSI technical department. Of course, we need the software vendors in. The win-win situation is the stakeholders bring in their requirements, and you can get the requirements from firsthand from the stakeholders. So I think it's a win-win situation for you and your software. And so I think this is a very well situation here, and I think we have done, and you have done a good job in the phase 2. So let's continue on that way. And as Dieter mentioned, so it's also possible to join for new stakeholders. So please contact us if you are interested in contributing to the project. Yeah, I think this is all what we have on our agenda for today. So we are very quick. We are 25 minutes after the start. So I hope, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who has contributed to that setup. It was not easy. It was really a lot of work, a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions to bring everybody on a similar view on the project or on the needed tasks. So thank you for that. And also the project management office team has done a great work while finalizing the phase 2 project. In parallel, starting up a new project is really tough and hard work. Thank you very much to everybody. So Sheila, are there some questions in the chat?
We don't have any questions at the moment, but there is a comment here from Evandro, which I can share on the screen.
Okay, thank you. So as you see, we have really, I think that's really the power of this IFC Rail team. And it lets us, as Christian mentioned in the finalization workshop session in the summit. I think it was Monday, right? It was really a big experience to have them all on board, and we dived through also through this Corona stuff, yeah. And this, I hope really, and I think everybody needs that to meet again in person. So we have some celebration slides on this presentation, the celebration slide on that presentation. But what's that for a good cold glass of beer in person, or a glass of wine in person, to say cheers to everybody and thank you for that work. So yeah, thank you, Evandro. You did also a big job in the implementers forum. You lead this through. It's also not easy because it is it's not easy. Let's say so. Okay, thank you. Something else.
So we have another comment. And we also have a comment from Edgar.
Okay.
We have a question from Feifei Zhao, which is, what is the outcome of this IFC Rail Next Steps project?
Okay, who wants to answer that? G or Guy?
Maybe I think we have some slides to have the goal, about the goal, right? We could go back to that slide.
1 moment. I have to okay. The goal slide, right?
Yeah.
Here it is. Sorry, here it is.
Yeah. So in general, in the project planning, also this was based on a lot of discussions with stakeholders who participated in this planning phase. So the first goal as an outcome, let's say, is to really have a very clear, very transparent, use case driven implementation and validation process. We hope this would be a buildingSMART process, and we try to support this process. This means that this process will not only be useful in this project, but will also be useful for many other use cases that you could use. So you could use this process, you could use the tooling to deliver requirements to software vendors, and software vendors can, based on these requirements, to implement the use case, and then you can validate this. So this is a process to really make sure that what you want can be implemented, and what you want can really work in reality. And the second thing is that we would like to go through this process based on 2 use cases. We're still not sure which 2 use cases, so this thing will need to be decided by the project team in the early phase of this project. So the plan is to have a list of use cases and then to conduct this, to prioritize them, to have 2 use cases to go through this process. So which means that at the end of this project, we aim to have 3 software vendors to already support these 2 use cases. So yeah.
Thank you, B. So are there some further questions?
Yes, we have a question from Martha. Are there any pilot projects running who are implementing phase 1 outcomes already?
I think this could be answered by P. I would consider each storyline like a pilot project. Yeah. P, would you like to say something for this?
Sorry. Are there any pilot projects running or implementing phase 1?
Yeah, I would say I would consider each storyline kind of a pilot project to implement in the outcome of the phase 1. I'm not sure. Am I supposed to answer?
No, he's gone. He's out of the session. His technical problems. I think.
Okay, then I just say that's about this this question. Are there any pilot projects running? So it's in the phase 2. Just we said before, in the phase 2 of IFC Rail, we had 11 storylines defined. So each storyline is kind of like a realistic project based on real data. It's a relatively small project, but still, it's a railway project. And then can use based on real data, and then this each stakeholder collaborated with software vendors to implement IFC 4.3 and make that produced a lot of IFC files to make that small example project work.
So the storylines were really very concrete topics in the life of an infrastructure manager. So you can say.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I had a problem with the computer.
Maybe you can also say some words about the storylines, some concrete.
Yeah. When we choose the storyline, or the stakeholders has chosen the storyline, they wanted to have concrete examples. And it's for that they decided to focus on some typical works they were on site based on the data set from their own, should say, company. And all these examples, it was, for example, turnout renewals, damping, level crossing, construction, and so on. All these works were, in fact, typical concrete situations based on existing data. And that is the best cases we've made according to each use cases which were decided and the various rail domains each stakeholder wanted to develop. So we had very good examples, and we are covering nearly all the domains. What we need to do now is to have a process, as it was described by Winfried, she and Dieter previously, in order to make sure that when we will proceed for the future, we'll be able to guarantee that all use cases can work.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered the questions completely.
Yeah, but I think this is a question. Yeah, I hope everything is fine with that.
Fefe cannot hear anything. I think that she has a problem.
Yeah, but I think it's technical. Everything working at our side, I think now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There's another question coming in. Are the storylines published somewhere?
Slide before, I think.
available?
Yes, all the storyline are published in the phase 2 documentation we produced, and we have a validation report which is covering all the storylines and detailing to make sure that we covered all the cases. And after each test leader produce storyline implementation report where they are describing all the tests they have carried out, the unit test, the exchange scenario, and the data requirement. So there is no problem. All this documentation is published. The only thing is that you may not be able to go to all the details of the test because they are in specific IFC rail territories, and some data are, I should say, owner property, like the dataset, for example. But all the reports are available.
Yeah, there are two kinds of reports, or let's say of deliverables. Let's say so. The one is paperwork. The one is really written in PDFs and so on. And the other deliverable is of course in GitHub. So there is also a description of everything. So
for more detail, you can go to the video of yesterday. It was yesterday when we presented the phase 2 production and deliverables. And there is the link provided. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
For next phase.
Yeah, so I think then thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention here in our session. Now you can grab a coffee and have a little bit more time. I really very much looking forward to run this project until next year. So let's see what we can afford in this year, and yeah. Happy to have you here. Thank you for the PMO. Thank you for all stakeholders' contributions to make this happen. And yeah, there's a lot of work to bring this project from the ground. So let's see how we can do it in the next 14 days. And yeah, thank you very much, and see you hopefully in the next summit in person. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.